The St. Kitts debt situation developed over a period of time. I think that it was a consequence of a number of unfortunate events, some exogenous, some endogenous. Then the exogenous ones had a lot to do, I believe, with a succession of hurricanes which hit St. Kitts and Nevis, which led to a lot of infrastructure damage, which required the government to make extraordinary expenditures to replace the infrastructure that was lost.
In fact, in the first 9 years of being in office, we had no less than 10 hurricanes. And we had to take, again, some policy decision. Would you, after the end of a devastating hurricane, with your school buildings torn down, your hospital destroyed, your airport terminal building seriously affected, the air control tower completely knocked down, what do you do?
We had just entered into the tourist industry, and we could not be wiped off the tourist maps that easily. So we had to go into debt to rebuild the country. And everybody benefited.
There was, of course, the sugar industry, which was then the lifeblood of our economy.
As world market prices begin to drop, then sugar production began to pay less money. It became non-profitable to produce. But government had to keep the sugar industry going because it is what people lived on. The social consequences of immediate closure would have killed us, And so we borrowed money.
We developed the industry to the point where we believed it was critically important to provide employment opportunities for a largely unskilled workforce, and also at the same time to provide necessary foreign exchange for the country. But after a period of 10 years, we realized that the sugar industry would not survive.
Already, former workers have received portions of the substantial payout. The Transition Management Office has been engaging in a series of training and counseling programs aimed at helping former workers to adjust to their new circumstances.
Not only were we strategic in when we came out of sugar, and it can't be just looking at the debt. It has to be looking also at people's life, livelihood, quality of life.
There was a strategy to go into tourism. And we went into tourism. And that is, in fact, what kept us, not only the sugar industry, but the services, the offshore schools, the medical schools, the veterinary schools, and so on. Those are what brought people in with new money. And with that new money, you're able to sustain the economy.
I think he made the right choice, and I think he made the choice at a time when it was important for us. Our tourism industry is at a different level.
There were also in my view, some policy errors that were made, which led to subsidies being extended to various sectors of the economy, which cost the government a lot of money. The subsidy of electricity prices, for example.
Electricity, water, those had to be subsidized. And so again, you had to take a critical decision. Do you provide the subsidy and bring your people out of poverty, give them the opportunity to move from being nakedly poor to at least working class, and from being working class to middle class, and from middle class to move upward? Would you not give them that opportunity, even though it meant investing some of state funds? And I took a critical decision based on my own orientation as a person, as a political person, as a human being.
Much of the debt money could be accounted in government's expenditure on education, electricity generation, Port Zante, which had to be rebuilt after devastation of the hurricanes. We have sea defense structures that have been built to protect the roads. We also have debt taken up by some of the statutory bodies, for example, the Port Authority.
We felt very strongly that the policy of empowerment had to be pursued, and in that way we also used the opportunity to provide affordable housing for our people.
The National Bank has been assisting in the development of our country. It's a local bank owned by ordinary people, assisted in the development of the country by lending us money so that we can enjoy a better standard of living, the housing projects, the roads.
The investment in these areas did impact the debt in a very positive way, and that's why the debt was as large as it was, close to 200% of GDP, and by the time we decided to tackle it.
We were able to swap out some of the expensive debt, the more expensive debt that the government of St. Kitts and Nevis had, replace it with cheaper debt extended over a longer period of time.
Then we had bilateral debt. Government went to Paris Club, and there was agreement to give us some relief at the Paris Club. It's generally not done for a middle-income country.
The agreement with the International Monetary Fund was underpinned by a medium-term adjustment program, which was very, very rigorous.
It's a homegrown program because we had already made a commitment within government that we are going to do those things.
The debt of St. Kitts and Nevis stood at close to $2 billion. That is local dollars. It was subdivided into foreign debt and domestic debt. The foreign debt was about 30% of the overall debt, and the domestic debt was 70%. Of the 70% of the local debt, most of it was being held by the St. Kitts, Nevis and Guyana National Bank.
The domestic debt now needs its own special treatment, and the government has determined that the best way forward would be the debt for land swap.
There was land that was being used to secure the debt. But the bank is not a land bank, so the bank cannot continue to own these tracts of lands. And so we created the special purpose vehicle in order to sell it or to develop these lands.
The special purpose vehicle is going to have a board of directors with members from the bank, National Bank, and members from the government.
1,200 acres that most people are talking about, lands that's on the eastern side of St. Kitts and lands on the western side of St. Kitts. On the eastern side of St. Kitts, the land comprises 3 estates: Lodge Estate, Hermitage Estate, and Brighton's Estate. The lands on the western side, which is just above the town of Sandy Point, comprise Farms Estate, Sawgills Estate, and Boaks Estate. There's another parcel, Lambert's Estate. Those are the 3 specific areas that will make up the 1,200 acres. The same type of thing that has been done at Kittish Hill could be done in these areas. There is adequate land left out for housing and for industry in all areas in St. Kitts. Some lands are better for agriculture, some are good for high-level tourist development, those high up with those magnificent ocean views.
The Special Land Distribution Initiative continues. The NHC housing program continues, all of which government provides lands to facilitate home ownership.
My name is Selvin Winston Andrew. Seems to me that it's going back to the long-time owners. And that means that Kittitians cannot get piece of the rock to buy if that's the case.
Land in our small country has always been an emotive issue. The vast majority of the lands in St. Kitts were owned by a select few. So the common man, the ordinary person, the people who toiled in the cane fields, like my father, for instance, never owned land. But in 1975, something which I always refer to as probably one of the most important political acts in the history of St. Kitts took place. The acquisition of the sugar lands by the then Labour government of Robert Bradshaw. So since then, since 1975, the government of St. Kitts and Nevis has owned the majority, vast majority of the lands in St. Kitts.
We are so fortunate because we are about the only country, maybe in the Caribbean, or maybe in the whole world, which had that kind of asset.
We can't build hotels in the air. We have to build hotels on the land. And if you're going to use that land for people, because we can't afford to build the big hotels, we can build small hotels. And I believe that some consideration to be given for locals who want to get into small hotels to provide lands for them.
They must have a first preference, and only if they fail to respond to the call to purchase these lands, to develop them, then considerations to sell to others would be given.
When we look at the lands which have been delineated for this particular process, it comes up to about 4% of our land. And we are writing off a significant amount of debt by that 4%.
Yeah, but this will give you some idea of how big these areas are, you know, if we got to look at the scale of the map. This here is represent almost 200 acres, and you could see how small it is as compared to the whole island. This represents 500 acres, and you can see the size of this, you know, with respect to the other parts of St. Kitts. And this here represents the other close to 500 acres in here.
Look at what has happened to Ross University and the area around Ross University. That part of the country has sprung up as a result of that investment in that tract of land. Imagine if that were to happen in Keon, in Hermitage Estate. Imagine somebody were to put down some fantastic investment there.
Now my question is, can't we find another 4 acres that National Bank can take so as to give us another 700 million so as to keep the machine running?
What I think that the Social Security and the SIDF fund should be able to pay for those lands, that they could remain in the hands of Kittitians who can get peace to buy later on.
We still got an awful lot of lands left, and I am certain that my great-great-great-grandchildren will be able to get a piece of land when the time comes for them to purchase.
The SIDF funds, the Sugar Industry Diversification Foundation funds, are not government funds. These are funds that belong to a private foundation. The Social Security funds belong to the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. The actuarial studies that we've had in the past, they have warned the government, they have warned the Social Security Board as to exactly how they can implement their own economic development plans, their investment plans for the future in the use of the people's funds.
His efforts were very courageous. I think he assessed the situation very carefully, and he weighed the pros and the cons, and my judgment is that he made the right decision at the end of the day. So I give him full marks for that initiative.
And by skillful negotiations and by reorganizing of the economy and so on, you're able to reduce the debt, the high debt that you have. And it's amazing that St. Kitts Nevis is now used as a model how to deal with debt.
Even though St. Kitts may also have felt the economic crunch of what was happening elsewhere in the world, the US felt it, Canada felt it, Europe is feeling it, everywhere it's being felt. We're not any different.
St. Kitts Nevis, blessed by a natural beauty that can only be described as exquisite and inhabited by people who have more than once staked out the high ground in transformative regional history, has just been declared a high-income nation.
The growth prospects for our country in the future are good. I think we have successfully transformed, although we are at the latest stages of transition, but we have successfully transformed and moved away from sugar agriculture to services led in particular by tourism and hospitality services. This country, small and protected as a paradise, has to be a green country. We know that there is a clamor for organic food. 120 street lights were installed and the lights turned on for the first time using the energy from the sun. We are going to see houses around this country outfitted with solar panels. Bills will come down. We need to drive the construction sector. And so we have the Park Hyatt Hotel in the Southeast Peninsula, the Christopher Harbour development. We have two other major hotel development projects in the Frigate Bay area. We also have two other projects that are being pursued by the Marriott. By the end of all of these projects, we would have over 1,000 high-quality, first-class rooms to be added to the room capacity, and airlift will continue to improve. Then there was the problem of the debt. We said we were going to fix the serious financial, fiscal problems that we had. We had to take some measures, which we have been criticized for. But I'm a medical doctor. We find a solution to a problem that has been diagnosed. Sometimes in giving the medicine, it's tasteless, it's painful, it's ugly, but in the end, it works, and the patient is better.
All around the Federation, with this land deal, people want to know what happened.